So the song that's playing right now, I just wanted to key off of that. It's actually a Bjork song. And if you're not a Bjork fan, I encourage you to be a fan just for this specific song. The great thing about this song is it starts off really, really quiet. The name of the song is It's Oh So Quiet. She starts off very low. She's whispering. You can barely hear her. And then all of a sudden, she's loud. She's like the Glee kids earlier. I had a whole routine, but they stole my choreography, so whatever. But anyway, the reason why I chose that song is because there are different levels of communication. I think one of the big mistakes that people make is that they do like a big blast. I call it shotgun blast, social media. They say, okay, we're just going to do Twitter, we're going to do Facebook, and that's going to be our social media. When in actuality, there's so many nuances to social media. There's so many different audiences that the audience that you're trying to reach may not be the audience that's using Twitter and Facebook. Instead of the shotgun approach to social media, I try to do what's called machine gun. I'm trying to get as many audiences as possible. I'm not trying to kill anybody. I'm not a murderer, I promise. After covering crime in Florida, I don't want to go back to that anymore. We're really trying to see at the Washington Post what are the really different sort of audiences that we can approach. The Washington Post made an effort in the last year. They said, okay, we do journalism online really great, but what we want to do is we want to do social journalism. We want the journalism that we do to originate from the social team. We call it the engagement team. It's me and a whole bunch of people who are originating stories from the social team. We say, okay, hey reporter, we know you're working on that story. What can we do now in advance of your story to prepare to engage our audience? Not when you're done with the story and, hey, can you post this on Facebook? That's great. You're going to get some people from that, but you're not going to get the great audience if you actually plan and if you come up with something that targets that specific audience. So everyone is a media outlet these days. Online, everybody has a message. You don't have to be written up in the Washington Post anymore to get your message out there. But what I want to do is to show you what we're using inside the newsroom. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks of the trade. My boss may not be happy about this, so don't tell her you heard it from me, okay? But these are the things that we're doing inside the newsroom to get our communities. All right, one of the big tools that we use is called social mention. If you missed any of the links in this presentation, I'll give them to you at the end. Don't worry about that. Social mention, www.socialmention.com. What this does is allows us, before we tweet or Facebook or put anything on the web, we're looking to see what are people talking about a specific subject. We had a story that came out that was really popular on social media about antibiotics. Should you take antibiotics if you have a sinus infection? And there was a study that said, no, you should actually wait a little bit before you take it. And so this is an example of using social mention. We can input some keywords, and it could be any keyword that you want. I've actually put myself in there just to see what people are saying. I am vain sometimes, as anybody on social media is. But I put in antibiotics and sinus. It shows me the most recent tweets about it, Facebook updates, Flickr photos. It searches the entire social web to see what people are saying about antibiotics and sinus. That's good. You can probably do this using Google, but what differentiates social mention from Google is that there's some things on the left rail of this website that you'll want to check out. First of all, it tells you what the sentiment around this particular topic is. You'll see that most of them are neutral. If you were to put something like Obama in there, you'd probably get more positive and negative in there. It also shows me the top keywords. It really hurts you on social media if you're not using the keywords that people are searching for. So what we try to do is make sure before we send out that tweet, before we send out to Facebook, make sure that we are using the correct keywords. You see that I've searched for antibiotics and sinuses, but under the keywords over there, it says infection. That's one of the top keywords that people are using. Study is under their symptoms. And so I will incorporate these words, natural language, so that I'm gathering the biggest audience possible. I'm scrolling down a little bit. On the left, you'll also see it says top users. This is particularly useful on Twitter. If you are searching for a particular topic, maybe I want to find who's talking about antibiotics. Who's the user? Who's the doctor? Who are the people who are suffering? I can actually look at the top users right there, and it'll show me usernames for people who are talking about this specific subject. And again, it could be any subject that you enter into this. You can click on them, it'll take you to their Twitter, it'll take you to their Facebook, and this is a way that we can interact with people. Maybe they're an expert, we can get them into the newsroom to do a live chat, to chat with us. It all depends, we have to go through it to double check. We also have top hashtags. I'll give you an example of why this is useful. The CPAC conference, which is the conservative conference that happens in Washington, D.C., One of our politics producers was using the hashtag CPAC 2012. And I thought about it for a second. I was like, I don't know if that's actually the right hashtag that we should be using. And you know, with any Twitter hashtag, you want to tap into the greatest audience possible. So what I did is I entered CPAC into this social mention, and it actually said, no, the top hashtag is hashtag CPAC. So I told the politics producer, I was like, hey, stop what you're doing, drop your keyboard, use this hashtag. And we got so much more interaction because we were using that particular hashtag than the one that we thought was correct. So it's helpful before you're starting any sort of campaign to go use this tool, find out what the hashtags are that people are using. Lastly, you'll see sources under there. I again said that Twitter and Facebook, you know, they're great, they catch large audiences, but sometimes the largest audience isn't on those networks. If you look right here, you'll see the top source for antibiotics and sinus is Dig. Dig, of course, is a social network. It's been around for a long time. So what Social Mention is telling me is that there are more people on Dig talking about antibiotics and sinuses than there are on Twitter. StumbleUpon is on there, YouTube and Facebook, and you can actually click on those links and see what people are saying about it. The next one that I use is Topsy. It's Topsy.com. It's another sort of search engine, but it does something really well that Social Mention doesn't quite do so well. Topsy is useful in finding out who was the first person to start talking about a particular subject. So say you're talking about swine flu, you wanted to find out who was the first person to get it in the US maybe. You can use Topsy to see who was the first person to tweet about it or who tweeted about it in the last hour. You can also do it by day, you can do it by 7 days, you can do it by 30 days. I put in here Whitney Houston bathtub. There was an issue about who was the first person to tweet about Whitney Houston. I wanted to find out who was the first person to tweet that she was in the bathtub. And so I've searched for it here. If I keep going through Topsy to the very end, it'll show me the very first person who tweeted about Whitney Houston in the bathtub. This is great because it also shows me influencers. So if I'm looking for a specific subject, if I'm going to talk about public health, for example, I can put it in Topsy, find out who are those Twitter users that are talking about it the most. Those are the ones that I'm going to engage with. Those are the people that I'm going to send my links to, either on Twitter or through email, so that I can keep my conversation going. Topsy also has a sort of side project called Topsy Analytics. It allows me to compare 3 different search terms at once. I use this for the Washington Post because I want to see which of our stories are doing really well. So I've entered 3 search terms there. One is bronchitis, one is sinus, one is infection. That top red line is users that have mentioned infections. And so it's comparing the 3. You can put anything you want in there. Again, you can use it for different reasons. If I was doing the CPAC thing, I could look and compare the 2 hashtags together. I could see what user is more popular. I can put 2 usernames in there. It's a great tool. And at the bottom, you can check this out when you go to the site. It'll show me the top links for the past 24 hours. Again, I use this for the post every morning. I go in, put in Washington Post, and it'll show me what the most popular Washington Post links on social media were. And so maybe it's something I missed. I leave earlier than most people do. And so maybe it's something that broke overnight. I can go back and say, oh, this was really popular. Let me go back and let me push that on social media because it's the thing that people are interested in. And again, we're trying to tap into the things that people are interested in and not just what the Washington Post is interested in. This is Facebook pages. You guys have probably seen this before. The Washington Post has 72 Facebook pages. I know this because I had to count each one of them. I was a very sad guy after having to do that. This is one of our Facebook pages. This is Capitol Weather Gang. The reason why we have 72 Facebook pages is because there are many different departments within the Washington Post. Our readers, some of our readers have general interests, many do not. So the same person who will be interested in a politics story may not be interested in what the latest weather is. And so we've created Facebook pages so that you don't have to go to the main Washington Post Facebook page. You can go to one of the sub-pages and get the information that you're interested in. The thing we found is that having multiple Facebook pages is great because we actually get more interaction with sub-Facebook pages because people, they're not just reading what's coming through the stream and like, oh, that's not interesting, this is interesting, this is interesting. We're targeting their interests, and so they're more likely to engage with us. If you look at the very bottom, it says 38 people like this, 33 comments. And this is a staff of 2, and they're continually posting, and they're one of the most popular sections within the Washington Post. Why? Because people love weather. We know that people love weather. We're checking our analytics. We're checking our social media. Anytime we push anything about weather, we know people are going to respond to it. So we put a special effort to create something specifically targeted to weather. This is Facebook Subscribe. How many of you guys have heard of Facebook Subscribe? Facebook Subscribe allows you, whereas Facebook Pages were connecting with a specific organization, Facebook Subscribe allows you to connect with a person. what we found is that people are more likely to connect with people than they are with pages or the Washington Post. So we did a big effort across the newsroom. We wanted our reporters to get on Facebook Subscribe. We wanted them to enable it, and instead of sending our reporters a friend request, a person can just subscribe to them and get their updates in their feed. And so instead of it saying Washington Post sent you this story, it says Jenna Johnson sent you this story. And there's her smiling face right there. Jenna Johnson is one of our college reporters, and as you see, she has 60,000 subscribers. I enabled Subscribe about 4 months ago. I already have 19,000 followers. I tweeted something about a Valentine and it got 70 likes, and I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my God, like that's crazy. And so really the audience is there. You don't have to interact with them. You don't have to send them your wedding photos or anything like that. You can toggle between public and private, and that's the great thing about Facebook Subscribe. But if you have personalities who you're trying to put to the forefront, this is a great way to do it. So that people are not just interacting with the organization and the message of the organization, but actually the people behind it. Think about it. Anytime that you interact with someone, you're more likely to talk with your friends. You're more likely to talk with your family. Why not do that on Facebook as well? Guest bloggers. We do a lot of guest blogging at the Washington Post, much more than we used to do, because we want to, again, tap into what the community is saying. We at the Washington Post, we have a lot of reporters, we have a lot of staff who write and are in the communities, but we also try to tap into what the community itself is saying. And so this is one of our sites. This is the Root DC, which is focused on African Americans living in the Washington region. And so we had one of the people in the community to write a post about Roland Martin, and as you know, he tweeted during the Super Bowl about David Beckham in his underwear. And so we had one of our guest bloggers write about it. So instead of it saying, oh, Washington Post wrote a story about Roland Martin, it was this guy really impassioned, really saying what he felt. And because he was saying what he felt and he could go outside of the restrictions of sort of a formal Washington Post story, people were more likely to be in tune with it. People are in tune with emotions. And so this is why we do a lot of guest blogging at the Washington Post. Storify. It's www.storify.com. If you're not using it already, I suggest you go sign up right now. It's one of the best tools for bringing the social media conversation onto your own site. Storify allows you to pull updates from Twitter, Facebook, Flickr, Instagram, RSS feeds, links. You can pull this into one tight package, and I'm going to show you a way that we use this. This is the style blog. 1-800-Flowers had a mix-up, where basically they didn't deliver a whole bunch of flowers on Valentine's Day. Did anybody order from 1-800-Flowers? You didn't? Okay, great. Well, a lot of people in DC did, and they were pissed because they did not get their flowers. Wives were calling, oh my God, you didn't get me anything for Valentine's Day. Husbands were crying. You know, it was a real big mess. And so thank God I didn't go to 1-800-Flowers. I'm sure they're a great company. But But so we wanted to capture that conversation. Now, if we were to report this story, we would have to call people, email. We already know that people are talking about this on social media, so we use Storify to get the updates. And so this little box that's in the middle, this is a Storify package. We've actually pulled tweets from people saying, oh my God, 1-800-Flowers, you ruined my life. And then right under that, we have 1-800-Flowers' response to those people. And so instead of writing out a story, a traditional story, we actually have people telling their own story through social media. So you can think about this in any way that you use it for your own organization. If you were talking about, for example, a meetup that you did, you can have people who were actually there. You can create a story based on their tweets or their Facebook updates and create that, and that can be a press release, that can be your news angle, that can be something that you circulate back on to your site. The other great thing about Storify is that when you import updates into the system, after you're done, it'll ask you, do you want to notify these people? And so I always recommend everyone to say yes to that. So it'll send a tweet and say, hey, Mark Luckie, the Washington Post did a story about you. And people will see that and they're like, oh my God, you know, the Washington Post wrote about me. And then they'll share it with their friends, and their friends will share it with their friends, and social media, viral, yay. Yeah, it's really good. What I want to stress to you is that you really can't just pick one tool. Everybody says, okay, I'm just gonna do Twitter, I'm just gonna do Facebook. You really have to figure out what is the tool that works for you. Always encourage experimentation. If you're doing Facebook Subscribe, it doesn't work for you, move on to something else. Find the tool that works for you. We always do action items at the end of every Washington Post story. So instead of just reading the story and then I'm done, okay, now I'm gonna skip off to the next thing, we say, hey, you read that story on 1-800-Flowers. Do you wanna tweet something about it? Do you wanna take our poll? Do you want to? It's always natural, it's never sort of forced, but we want people to feel like they're a part of the conversation, that they're actually doing something on the Washington Post site. The thing is, I said this earlier, is that you don't just want to appeal to your message. We all have messages that we want to spread. We have to put out releases. We have to create initiatives. But you have to think about, who is your audience? What do they want to hear? What do they want to do? And I think what distinguishes between good social media and great social media is tapping into what the audience wants. So before I send out a tweet, I say, would I click on this? If not, I need to go back and change it. Would I participate in this particular initiative? No? Okay, I need to retool the language. And so that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. My Twitter handle is Luckie. I thank you all.